Hello. So this is kind of a weird, slightly awkward, difficult video for me to make. I guess just with it being Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving, and me not having any family to visit. It's just kind of difficult for me. I guess I'm feeling a little bit sad and I guess nostalgic. So I kind of have been wanting to make this video for a while. So I figured, why not do it today? You know, a lot of my friends are doing things for Thanksgiving and I am sitting at home with my dog. I think the reason I'm making this video is because I guess nobody really knows what happened with my mom. I've never really talked about it ever to anyone, even that I know in real life. I had a therapist for a while and I kind of told him what happened, but it's just something that I don't really talk about. The only reason that my boyfriend knows what happened really is because he was there with me when it all happened. I feel like if I had met him after, I wouldn't have told him. I guess I'm just not really one to talk about my feelings ever. I don't really cry. I'm not very open. I don't really tell people how I'm feeling, which is, you know, not the best way to be. I'm just like not a sensitive person. I don't like to talk about my feelings. But I remember when I was going through the whole thing with my mom when she was sick. I remember there was this Candy Johnson video that I watched. Who I don't typically watch her because I find her pretty annoying. Sorry, but I watched her video. It was her. She was talking about how she lost her dad, and I think it was around Christmas time because my mom died around Christmas time, and I guess she was feeling a little bit nostalgic with her, you know, not having family around Christmas, and she basically just made a video about her losing her dad. And it just meant a lot to me. Like it meant a lot to watch a video, to know that I wasn't really alone, that like, you know, this happens to other people. And I don't know, it's just a video that made me feel better for, you know, the 15 minutes that I watched it. So I was thinking, you know, since nobody really knows at all what happened because I've never talked about it, and if, you know, this video can help someone else like the way that her video helped me, not that, you know, I have the same audience that she does, the same audience reach. I just thought maybe that I could talk about my experience and how shitty it was. Again, I'm sorry if I seem a little bit awkward. This is really hard for me because I don't ever talk about my feelings. I've always kind of been this way, but ever since my mom died, it's been really worsened. So if you are going through, you know, something with a parent or a relative, or if you're just, you know, curious about what happened with my mom, because I feel like it's a disservice to never talk about her because, you know, she was such a great lady, and I just feel like it's oh god. I just feel like it's like a disservice to not talk about her. So I just guess I want to like put this out there and just, you know, talk about who she was as a person. Really the only time I cry ever, pretty much, is when I talk about my mom. And I don't like to feel sad, and I don't like to like feel this way. So I just try. Like, it's been almost 4 years at this point, but I just feel like, you know, if I continue to think, I just feel like if I think about it or if I talk about it, it just brings it all back up. And in order to like function as a regular human, I just have to not think about it, not talk about it. Because as soon as I start talking about it, this happens. And it's just easier to function as a regular human in everyday life and just not think about it. But again, I feel like it does a disservice to her to not, you know, think about her. So, I really shouldn't have done my makeup. I guess I'll just give you a background. My mom and I were really, really close. We fought a lot. You know, I was a shithead teenager. But at the end of the day, she was a single mom. She was a strong, amazing person who raised me all by herself, well, with the help of her parents, so my grandparents. I was pretty much raised by her and my maternal grandparents. They were all amazing. But then when I was a you know, preteen. My grandparents both died within a couple years of each other. So it was just me and my mom again. When I moved out when I was 19, we lived about 45-minute bus ride away from each other, so I would visit her every weekend. Sometimes, you know, during the week, I would call her on the phone every single day. I didn't go one day without talking to her ever, really. So we were super close. She would always, you know, she was just a sweet old lady. She was 64 when she died. So she had me when she was 41, which, you know, is pretty shitty because I knew even in high school that my mom would die before all my friends' moms just because of her age. I guess I just always knew that I wouldn't have the most time with her because of her age, but she's 64 still, you know, too young to die. I was hoping I would have her till at least 80. So my mom died in 2014. She died on January 12th of 2014. I was 23, and I don't remember a lot of it because I guess I kind of emotionally shut down. It was a really, really difficult time. She had cancer. When I was in high school, she had colon cancer, which, you know, it's pretty easy to beat. I feel like a lot of people get over colon cancer. I feel like it's really easily, you know, detectable, really easy to beat. So she beat it. She had to have surgery, but she did beat it. But then a few years later, it metastasized. I'm not a doctor. It went to her liver and her lungs. So she beat the lung cancer, but she eventually died of the liver cancer. She wasn't a drinker. She smoked, but that's, you know, who doesn't? I don't. But it wasn't the smoking that did it. She didn't drink. She didn't, you know, she was relatively healthy other than the liver cancer. Side note, ever since I was 10, I've been an avid journaler. I always wrote diaries. I have boxes and boxes of diaries in my storage room in my basement in this condo. Since I find it really difficult to recall things from that time because it was really fucked up, I have this journal that I thought I would read. I haven't read it in a couple of years probably. Sorry, this is so weird that I'm just sitting here reading a journal, but instead of me just talking about it because I don't completely remember, I just figured I would read my journal. So this was written in August of 2014. I wrote, "My mom died in January. It's something that has effectively turned my life into two sections, before January and after January. I miss her more than I ever thought I could miss anything. Just mentioning her or seeing her writing or hearing her voicemail or anything at all makes me cry. I try so hard every day to not think about it. It feels selfish to not think about your own dead mother. I feel like I'm disrespecting her by not thinking about her and missing her 24/7 because she was everything to me, but if I think about her, I get so cripplingly sad I can't function as a human," which is the way I still feel. Good to know that didn't go away. "I need to almost be in denial to shut off my feelings in order to be a person capable of living. It's been harder to do that lately. For 6 months after her death, I was so wrapped up in funeral plans, packing up her house, selling furniture, selling her house, finding a room in my apartment for half her stuff, basically learning how to be an adult all of a sudden and pay bills, take on mortgages, etc., that it was possible for me to shut off my emotions. I was busy and in shock and numb, but now it's coming to a point where not hearing her voice every day, we used to talk on the phone every single day, 2 to 3 times a day, and I'd visit her once a week, is so profoundly sad to me. It physically hurts my heart that I can't pick up the phone and dial her number to call her and tell her how much I miss her and love her. I cry almost every night now, just freshly shocked that she's not here, and I'll never be able to hug her again, and I miss when I was able to not allow myself to feel that pain. It's harder to turn it off now, but I don't know if I'm ready to deal with it yet." Evidently, still not ready. December 31st, 2013, she sent out an adorable email to all of her friends and cousins and me telling us to have a great New Year's and that she'd be in bed sleeping when New Year's rolled around. I spoke to her that evening. She was totally fine. I called her January 1st, 2014 to wish her a happy New Year's Day. My Aunt Darlene answered, telling me my mom was in bed not doing very well. She had quite serious liver cancer at this point. She had told me at the beginning of December that she had about 3 months to live, but I was in total denial. I was worried and spoke to my mom's palliative care nurse, kind of frantically asking what was wrong. My mom couldn't even come to the phone, and the nurse very blatantly and coldly answered, "Well, she's dying," as if to say, "Duh, you little idiot." But I had spoken to her the night before. My mom, not the nurse. I didn't think my mom was actually dying. She spoke fine and walked okay and cooked and cleaned and went to the dog park with Cookie every day and worked hard at her job that she loved. There was no way that she was dying. She was so tough and strong. So I spoke to her a couple hours later and she sounded fine. I just want these people out of my house. I was so relieved, but when I called back a couple hours later, she was alone. She didn't know where she was or who I was, and she was angry and groggy and confused. So I got on a bus with Riley, my boyfriend, and got to her house and found her laying in a hospital bed in the living room, alone, asleep, and groggy, and still having no idea who or what anyone was. I was terrified. I had no idea cancer could make you like this, and called an ambulance and spent the night with her in the hospital. All night she was angry and confused and 100% not herself. In the morning, after sleeping, she seemed okay. I had no idea what had caused it. Doctors weren't being helpful. She's dying was the general consensus. Okay, she's dying. Why is she weak and confused and being weird? And I'm 23 and alone and scared and I can't handle this. I thought one night she'd just go to sleep and not wake up. Why doesn't she know who I am? Nobody had prepared me and nobody was helping. But in the morning she was about 75% back to normal, so I took her home. She watched TV and rested and talked to me and Riley. She told us she was hallucinating people and Christmas tree baubles, but that she wasn't weirded out because she knew it wasn't real. We all laughed about it and we assumed it was the morphine she was on. I thought, okay, everything's gonna be okay. That was weird, but she's fine now. She'd walk to her office to have a smoke. She'd cuddle Cookie, who was her dog who she fucking was obsessed with. Her second child, besides me. She was okay. I clipped her toenails in her bed for her, and I said, "I love you," and she said, "Remember you said that," and let out a huge burp. She was being funny and sweet, and everything was okay. Then, that night, she was the same as the night before. She was mean and confused and stubborn. I got scared and called an ambulance again, thinking maybe it was a blood clot in her brain. Something. I didn't know. She had had that before. She went in the ambulance, bitchy and swearing, on a stretcher because she couldn't walk. Riley and I drove to the hospital behind them. We parked and got into the ER, and there she is in her stretcher, wide-eyed like a little girl, content as can be, eating ice to help with her fever. She looked at us and went, "Want some ice?" Those last few days, when she was conscious, was like taking care of a 5-year-old. She was stubborn and mean sometimes, but sometimes so adorable and cute and full of wonder and so innocent. At one point, we were sitting with her in the ER, and this guy was yelling, "Fuck!" over and over, either high or crazy, and she looked at me wide-eyed and whispered, "Is that guy saying fuck?" She was just so cute, like a little child mom, but it still scared me because it wasn't her. And still, they sent her home in the morning with no real explanation for me. I felt alone and scared because normally I'd go to my mom for help, but she was the one I was worried about. I decided to live with her and take care of her since who else does she have? I loved her more than anything, and I was scared shitless and was clueless, but I tried my best. I gave her 1,000 different pills at 1,000 different times and gave her needles and made her eat soup and strawberry milkshakes because that was all she could manage, and I slept on the couch in the living room next to her hospital bed. Sometimes she'd be sort of herself and sometimes not. So because she was so far along in her cancer, they gave her a hospital bed in the living room in her house, so she didn't have to, climb the stairs to her bedroom. I slept on the couch in the living room next to her hospital bed. Sometimes she'd be sort of herself and sometimes not. I called her palliative care people and got a night nurse from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. so I could get some sleep. They'd change her diaper that she now had to wear and bathe her in her hospital bed in the living room. A few days later, she stopped talking and eating altogether. Waking her up to bathe her was painful and confusing for her. She couldn't swallow anymore. Riley took time off work to be with me. January 12th, around 10 p.m., we were sitting on the couch beside her while she was sleeping. I saw her take a really deep breath, and then she just stopped breathing. I stopped breathing. My stomach dropped. About 10 seconds later, she took another breath. I got up, stood by her, said, "Oh my God, Mom, you scared the shit out of me," and she stopped breathing again. Realizing what was happening, I grabbed her hand and started sobbing and was stroking her face and saying, it's okay, Mom, I'm here, go ahead." And Riley was standing behind me crying, and she just took one more deep, heavy breath, and that was it. I hugged her and sobbed and closed her eyes, because that's what they do in movies, like I thought I was supposed to do, even though they were pretty much already closed. And I hugged Riley and was just like, okay. I stopped crying and called the funeral home people, and I called my Aunt Darlene because I thought she should know, and she came over with my Uncle Dave, and I just started washing my mom's hair with shampoo and a cloth and a pot of water because I knew she wouldn't want anyone to see her with greasy hair. And they came and said their goodbyes to her, and I thought they were going to stay with me until the funeral people came, but they left, and that's when I realized that I'm really alone. I have no family left, no one left to care for me unconditionally. And I felt scared and sad, and I was just sitting in the kitchen with Riley with my mom's body in the living room. I kept going over to stroke her cheek or fix her blanket. The funeral people came to take her away, and Cookie was outside barking and whining, and they were wearing all black, and they said, "My condolences." And they probably thought, these are just kids, because at 23 you're still a kid. And they zipped her up in a black body bag, but I couldn't watch that part because I didn't want my last time looking at her face to be in a body bag. That was the worst day of my life. I went over and found a hair on her pillow and kept it in an old pill container. And then me and Riley and Cookie went and slept in her room, in her bed upstairs. 12 days, that was it. So yeah, it was fucking hard and fucking awful. Because I was raised by my mom and my grandparents who were not there anymore. I didn't have a dad. I've never had a dad. He's a piece of shit. My mom's cousin, who was one of her best friends, who I mentioned in the diary entry, she lived about 10-minute drive away. But she's not my mom. She had no obligation to me, even though we're family. I felt like I had no real family left because to me my only family was my mom and my grandparents, and so after my mom died I really just had no one. I have no siblings. I'm an only child, so I had to pack up my mom's whole house. She had a pretty large house. I had to pack up the whole house by myself with Riley. He took a lot of time off work, and we pretty much just spent months packing up the whole house, throwing things in the trash, trying to save things. But trying to take a big 3-bedroom house with a full basement and shove all the stuff into a tiny 2-bedroom condo was not easy. So we had to throw a lot of stuff out. It was just like a really shitty time. I was working at the time. I was supposed to be back in school, but I took time off to take care of my mom. So it was just really hard at going back and forth between my home in Toronto, take care of my animals, and then my mom's house in Brampton, which was about 45 minutes away. Not only was it physically exhausting, it was just, I was trying to mourn my mom at the time, but I really couldn't because I was so busy doing things. I was so busy cleaning up her house, trying to find a real estate agent to sell her house, selling her house, trying to find a new home for Cookie because I just couldn't have Cookie in my tiny apartment with me with 5 cats. I had 5 cats at the time. So it was just heartbreaking for me because Cookie was like her child and I had to find a new home for him. We gave him to one of my mom's good friends, and then he was a really old dog, so he died a couple years after she died, and I miss him a lot. But it was just a really difficult experience for me. I felt extremely alone. All I had was Riley. My friends were great, but they had jobs, they had lives. I wasn't going to ask them to come down to Brampton, like a shitty suburb, every weekend to help me pack up my dead mom's house, So I just felt really, really alone. And I guess I still feel really alone, which is why I'm making this video on Thanksgiving. Because I have no family. I have my boyfriend and my friends. That's all I have. And I miss my mom a lot. I would go over to her house for every single holiday. She'd make a turkey. She'd make all the good stuff for Thanksgiving. And it doesn't get easier like I thought it would. I didn't think I would ever miss her less, but doesn't get easier. Every holiday, every day is equally as hard. I have my mom's ashes in this necklace. It's like a little hollow silver tube, and I have her ashes inside. Not all of them, obviously, just a little spoonful. I guess I just, you know, I'm making this, trying to share my experience, trying to share advice, I guess also looking for advice, because obviously it's not something that's easy to get over. I had a therapist for a while, but he was a real asshole. So I've been thinking about, you know, looking for another therapist. I don't know, just grief is really hard, and I thought I just would be open with you guys, because I really never am with anyone. I'm not an open person. So I guess just my Thanksgiving vulnerability made me want to make this video. People always ask me why I don't have family, and not like in a rude way, like, why don't you have family, you fucking loser? But like, I don't know, online and stuff, I post pictures of my mom on my Instagram a lot, and I get people asking me what happened. So, you know, that's what happened. But yeah, cancer fucking sucks. One thing my mom was really big on was that she was very adamant about supporting other cancer research causes, not just breast cancer, because she always said, you know, breast cancer sucks, but women get other cancers as well. So she had 3 other type of cancers. And I guess if you are going through something like having a relative with cancer, just know that they can get confused, and they can get irritable, and they may not know who you are, because I didn't know that could happen. My grandpa had brain cancer, and he went through all that stuff when I was 12, but I figured that was because it was in his brain, so it was affecting his, you know, cognitive abilities. It's like he couldn't walk, he couldn't talk, by the end he couldn't move really. And my mom, the exact same thing happened with her. And so I thought, like, why is this happening? She doesn't have brain cancer. But I still don't know why that happened, but just know that it can happen with any type of cancer, I guess. So I guess if you have someone who has cancer, don't be in super denial like I was, because if I had just asked my mom and been more open with my mom and, you know, asked questions about what was happening, she maybe could have told me what was gonna happen, that she might get confused, or she might not be able to walk or talk or eat by the end of it. But I was in denial, and she was too scared to hurt me, so we never really talked about it. So I guess my advice would be just talk about it with your person, and don't forget to tell the people you love that you love them. Because I was lucky enough to literally be holding my mom's hand when she died, and I feel so unbelievably grateful that I was able to do that. Like, I will never be more grateful for anything in life, more than the fact that I was able to be right beside her when she died. Just me, Riley, and my mom. I was just holding her hand, and I'm so grateful for that. A lot of people don't get that opportunity, so just tell your people that you love them. That's all. I guess that's it for me in this fucking terrible sad video. Sorry if I made your day shitty. But if you have any advice for me or any questions for me, leave them down below, and I will happily read them and answer them and share more of my experience or more of my knowledge, and take in your experiences and your knowledge. That's it. Okay. Bye.